Hey billionaires, you're tuned in to the AFTERBUZZ TV after show for Billions, Season 2, Episode 7, Victory Lap. Join us as we break down the episode and give you our thoughts and predictions. Let's go!
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
And the trumpets, they go.
This is all him.
Yeah, the trumpets, they go.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AFTERBUZZ TV after show for Billions. It's Season 2, Episode 7, and we're back as always. Excited to break down a new episode with you. I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M. I'm joined by my friend and a great person, Andrea Fasano.
He always has the best introductions for me, doesn't he, guys? Hey,
No.
what's up? I'm Andrea Fasano, and you can follow me on all social media at Andy Fasano.
And normally I try and make her nervous with the introduction that I give her, so you gotta switch it up
You made me
sometimes
nervous
and
with
bring the
the-
kindness.
with the pause,
Just a
for
little,
sure.
Yeah, a little pause gets her a little bit nervous. So happy to be along with you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I do have a quick aside before we get into the
Please,
episode.
I love asides.
For the first time ever, I was approached by a friend who had randomly come upon our show.
No way.
I was at my dodgeball tournament yesterday.
Yes.
And the guy who runs it, Doe is his name, he came up to me. He's like, I listen to your show. I love Billions. I love your after show too.
Yes.
And I thought that was the coolest thing.
Totally.
Yeah,
What
just
was
to
his name again?
His name is
Sa?
Doe. is
Okay,
his
I didn't know if
last
you said
name, yeah.
Asa. Sado.
Yeah.
What's up? So,
Yeah.
happy you like the show. Thank you for watching. And I've played dodgeball once
Oh, you have?
with that
Did
crew.
Rachel?
Well, with
take
Rachel,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
If you know who Rachel is, I don't need to say her full name, but
Yeah.
he'll let you know.
So I thought that was amazing little aside. But we love every one of our listeners out there, and we like to pay it forward by mentioning your comments every week in a segment we like to call our social media shoutouts. Use the hashtag ABTVBillions out there on Twitter, or you can comment directly on our YouTube page for the streamed show. Or on our live chat. Andrea is monitoring our live chat, so you guys can comment directly on there, and we'll sprinkle in your feedback throughout the show. So, Andy, what do we have out there that was interesting from last week or has popped up already?
Okay, so we have a couple of really good comments from our show last week. We have Ms. Lost Nikita doing a prediction, which I really enjoy.
Okay.
You know, I always love those.
Right?
She says she wouldn't be surprised if the season ends with Lara leaving Axe, just like Wendy left Chuck in season 1.
Okay.
And that has to do with the secrets, obviously, that Axe is keeping from her, and she thinks it's going to get revealed.
Well, yeah, last week's episode, we saw a big, what looked like fissure between Lara and Bobby, which seemed to get repaired this week, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. Hardly. Like, just surface, I feel like.
Ooh, I disagree.
Okay.
Ooh, we'll get to that.
Love
That'll
when
be a
we
fun
disagree.
topic. Yep.
Then we have Dave, who sends a huge thank you and says that he's been an AfterBuzzer for a few months, listens to a few podcasts, and Billions is his 5th one.
Sweet.
And has by far his vote as the best one, hands down.
Hey.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
That means a lot to us.
We'll take every one praise for every 5 haters we get.
Yeah, really.
So it's only
Exactly.
good.
We're really pumped about that because seriously, last season we had a panel of 4. It was obviously a lot easier to digest and dissect Billions week by week with 4 people. Now it's just Frank and myself, and we do our best.
But
so,
you know what? We love
thank
each
you.
other, and there's a
Of
great
course we do.
chemistry.
Yeah.
And Jason, don't get upset. It's just a friendly chemistry, okay?
When he wakes up, he'll watch this. He's-
Right.
No, he won't.
All right, so let's
but
get into
we're
the
really
episode.
excited for that. You guys, thank you so much for commenting and keep doing so. We love to read them every week. So thanks. And your input helps us with.
And oftentimes the listeners will point out things that I didn't realize or have
Absolutely.
like an interesting theory that we hadn't thought of. So it's really cool. So let's go back to the Lara and Bobby thing, since that was brought up.
Yes.
Through one of the listener comments, is that I think Lara really appreciated that Bobby came to her. Now, before you come back at me, I will say that obviously she was disappointed that he didn't come to her first.
You know what? I thought you meant the reparation was between Wendy and him. Is that what you said? Or Lara? Okay.
Lara
I was
and Bobby.
reading.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's okay. So, I thought that, Bobby coming to her this week with the important decision on what to do about Sandicott was interesting, and it sort of steeled him, because I really do believe that he was sort of wavering between the two decisions. And it's a larger global question, too, with relevance in real events. I'm from Michigan. My dad was a Detroit police officer, so I was very much involved in understanding the financial crisis that hit Detroit, and people's pensions were significantly reduced. The way that cities were run and continue to be run in a lot of places were very poorly done, and politicians will kick the can down the road and have future generations to have to deal with it. So I thought the storyline was very relevant, and then it plays into, Bobby and Lara's relationship, and actually I thought helped to enhance it, where she gives him the steel spine to say, "Hey, go ahead and take it all out." Did you see them coming closer together
so
this week too?
I apologize. Anyone who heard me in the beginning, I'm taking it back now. Absolutely, I totally thought you meant Wendy and him. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed her smirk at the end, because she knew that he heard her and was listening, and I couldn't decide. I was really thinking about this. I was like, is she just happy that he's taking her advice after all this time again, because he used to, or is she playing, kind of a chess game with him now because she feels so left out? So that's to be seen. That may be slightly a prediction of mine, maybe.
Okay.
But I definitely saw it. I was excited for it. I kind of like when they have that little bonding partnership going on. And, politically, I think the bailouts and stuff are ridiculous. Like Taylor's entire speech that she went on,
it resonated with you?
It did. It totally did. I thought that was smart and educated. Obviously, it was like it was just a smart, because she's obviously sensitive and emotional, and I thought that was really cool. So
yeah, I get where you're coming from on that.
the whole
what
bailout,
Taylor
the
said,
whole idea with the businesses.
Right. I think the American people are so done with the word bailout or, covering for politicians who make bad decisions if you don't live within your means, because we all in our own lives have to manage the amount of financial resources we have. And when cities aren't able to honor their promises, it's really frustrating to ask somebody else to come in and bail them out of it. And then sometimes the cities can't even pay back the bailout.
Right.
So, I totally agreed with you too. There is an emotional play to say, hey, a lot of people are going to get hurt by this, but they're not being hurt. And this is just a greater philosophical question for me. Instead of blaming the people who actually caused the problem,
right,
you're blaming the other person. You're blaming the messenger. We shoot the messenger so many times.
Someone who exposed the problem,
right?
Kind of,
like,
in a way.
For you movie fans out there, like when you see The Dark Knight, right? So at the end of the movie, you have Batman and Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Dent all, meeting, and they're blaming themselves for the fact that the Joker was out in the city causing terror. And I think that is so wrong. That is not it's a societal question, right? So who's really responsible when things go wrong? Is it the people who did it, or the people who are here to fix the mess and that are going to cause the difficulty that comes with it? So I was right there with you. I went on a little bit of a rant there, but I thought about that a lot. I thought about that a lot in this context, where people need to act responsibly, and our leaders in government and elsewhere need to act responsibly with the money that we send them every single year, because government has no money without us paying it to them.
Right.
If the check doesn't go to Washington, they have nothing. Government doesn't make money on its own.
Right.
So I really like this episode for that subject matter.
And like Taylor said, if you're irresponsible as a business, you don't get to keep being irresponsible as the CEO or the president and then look for someone to bail you out, a sugar daddy, which was an awesome line. I think that this was a huge nod to the beginning of season 1. You heard not beginning, but the middle, where you heard a lot of political commentary from Billions, right? With everything with 9/11. And we haven't really seen that this season so far, and it's episode 7. So this was kind of an ode back to that, I think. A big one, actually.
Yeah, they're tying these things together. Obviously, politics is a big part of the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which
and
is
money.
Which led to another interesting storyline from tonight, which I thought was, I think it's an overreach on Rhoades' part to want to go after higher public office.
Yes.
He has some
Very good
skeletons in
point.
his closet with the sexual preferences that he has, in addition to his troubles at home with Wendy. And he has one big case, and there's Daddy Rhoades pushing his son to go do something that I don't really think Chuck wants to do.
I think he really isn't ready for it.
Yeah.
I think he's being authentic with his dad as far as, you know, he gets giddy thinking about like, oh, they think I could run. But he's scared.
Yeah.
He obviously is insecure in more ways than one. We've seen that. We've heard him say it. And I think that he knows his job. And like he said, he has unfinished business.
Yeah.
He's been fighting to keep his job. So all the work he's been doing hasn't been for the good of his position. It's just been to keep his position.
Yeah.
So
The
now
li-
he wants to do his job.
Yeah, the line you're referring to that popped in my mind was when Chuck said, I don't think I finished my mission yet. And his mission's to get Axe.
Yeah, yes.
That's what the mission is.
You're
and
right.
It always has been. But now you have Wendy in with Axe and back at Axe Capital. But Wendy's hooking up with my boy Jimmy Wolk.
Yes.
Doing it in the hotel room.
Can we just say who called that?
Yeah.
This girl.
Get the prediction right. There you go. Because we get a lot of predictions wrong, so we have to celebrate when
Yes,
we get one or two right.
I knew he'd be back.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, she's just like...
Dove in.
Dove
in.
Time out. But she's at like a hotel room just like chilling there. Like, I would think they'd go out to eat, they'd have dinner, but...
And you did notice she was wearing the same dress the next morning, right?
Yeah.
When Chuck came in.
Oh, wait, that part I didn't know. Oh,
Because I
that's a
loved
great
that
point.
dress that she was wearing, so I took very much notice to it with the little see-through sides.
Yeah.
And she was wearing it that next morning.
Oh, when she met up with Chuck.
And that's why Chuck was like, was that the babysitter? And she was all, why would it be the sitter?
Oh.
Subtle.
I did not realize
Subtle.
that. That's why you are a brilliant TV
Thank
reviewer.
you.
To
When I
notice
pay
things
attention.
like that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the show just moves so fast.
It does.
There were some edits, the edit in the beginning where one door closes and one door opens. Like, it's so brilliant. But I'm taking notes, and then I gotta like rewind it.
Yeah.
Like we said, you miss a moment. So.
You get. I got 4 to 5 rewinds in this
Today,
episode,
yeah.
as we always do. I rewound the Chuck Rhoades poll numbers.
I had to too.
A
I
couple
wanted to
times.
see that
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, I did too.
I wanted to see what
it
it
wasn't
said.
really clear
No.
what the poll numbers were
Clearly,
saying.
he was high.
Just that the dad wrote a note and said they look really good. So anyway, getting back on track here. So Wendy is approaching the let's hook up with everybody with certainly one avenue where she hits up her billionaire former client and says, hey, get over to my hotel room. It's basically a high-level booty call.
Oh, for sure.
Is what happened.
Do you think that she's going to regret that, though? I really want to know if everyone out there thinks that she's going to regret that, because she definitely said it just for him.
Yeah.
So does that mean she's over Chuck, or is she just like, yo, I need to get mine right now? Because she even told that, she even told him, Craig,
Yeah.
listen, this is not what
Yeah.
you think it is.
Heidecker,
Slow down,
he was
space boy.
getting attached, and it was Wendy
Quickly.
kind of saying in a higher level way, don't fall in love with me, because that's not where she is right now. And look, Wendy's a hot number. She can get who she wants. But I do think, to answer your question, that she may regret it because it was sort of just vacant, emotionless sex for her. While for my boy out there, he was falling in love. And Jimmy's got his family right now, so I didn't ask him to come back on the show. He's like, his family's up there. He's shooting in Vancouver right now for Zoo.
Oh, cool.
The season of Zoo. So, and he's got his family and his little baby, and I was just like, I'm not going to trouble him to come on. I can tell plenty of stories about Jimmy and I as classmates in Michigan, but... he does a really good job in this. He comes off as a billionaire with flaws, but is open about it and is just so present in the moment with Wendy.
For sure.
And he's vulnerable, too, because he's expressing these feelings that he hasn't felt since 2001. He had woke up at 5 a.m. every morning, no matter who he was with or what he was doing, and now in Wendy's presence, he felt a stillness. I thought that was a really lovely written scene, the way that those two actors and characters communicated to each other. There's certainly a way where, if you're you're watching Jersey Shore, that scene goes down with, yo, I'm really feeling this. Nah, I'm not really feeling it. This is just a wham bam, thank you, man, peace. You want me to call you a cab?
Are you reenacting the scene?
If it was on Jersey Shore, that's just what I'm saying. It could be really poorly written, but in contrast, it's just a really well crafted moment.
Absolutely,
I liked it a lot.
Well, that's Billions. Full of elegance. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, even in a sort of like high level hookup scene, they have a nice way to write it off and just to say, this really wasn't anything more.
Even
than
when
this.
he kissed her shoulder, she was like, roll and stretch.
Oh, okay.
I
didn't
that.
notice that too. Andy, you're an expert
I
at
know,
this body
I'm like-
language thing post hookup for Wendy Rhoades.
You know what? I realized a lot from our last show that, especially with us kind of debating some of the things that happen in the show, I realized that Billions does have its way with its messages. We've talked about the clothing, we've talked about the song choices, and they don't miss a beat. And so I'm really trying to pay attention to everything. That being said, even the whole scene with the chef in the beginning, like I kind of go, what does that have to do with anything? Because am I right? Billions doesn't waste a moment. So you're kind of like, does that show how Axe looks at things, how Lara looks at things? Maybe it was a foreshadowing for Lara helping him later on, because he kind of left the decision up to her as to what they do with Chef Ryan. Disturbing, to say the least, for their children. Mm-hmm. Conversation no parent wants to have.
That was weird.
Really weird. I mean, even for the cinematography of it all, with the back tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
You're just like, what's happening?
I do agree with you that it felt like a slightly wasted moment. Like, oh, chef, let's give Chef Ryan something to do.
But you know it's not. And that's what my that's what my question kind of is. Not so much confusion, because like I said, I think it does play into it later on in a totally unrelated manner. But like, I don't know, it's so good.
Yeah, I agree with you. They don't waste time. They don't waste a frame on screen. There's not something little that we're going to find out later didn't mean anything. Let me ask you this, because I kind of have the same... I felt cheated a little bit in tonight's episode, learning about Brian and Brian, the additional part of the scene that took place after his meeting with Axelrod in the pizza restaurant. It felt like we should have known that last season.
You think so?
Yeah.
That Bobby came running out after him?
Him running out after him.
Asking about the bug?
Yes.
Now, do you think that affects the bug scene, the last scenes of last season, or do you think it affects Brian?
No, I think it affects Brian's storyline throughout this whole thing, because he acted as a double agent. I mean, he called for the internal investigation of Chuck, though that seems unrelated to the additional part of the meeting.
Right.
If the idea is to show that Brian is being seduced by this outside world, then there's no reason not to show that scene last season. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how much it added for me for tonight's episode.
It didn't add a ton for me, because it just shows that he was indirectly ratting, right? Because of what he said. But I just, I agree with you as far as that goes. And it showed that he kind of just opened his mouth. He didn't do it directly. He just kind of gave a nod like, I wouldn't be surprised. All right. I still think he's gonna change. But then he again gets like romanced by Rhoades again. We constantly see that back and forth, like him being won over, and Rhoades is like, he'll have the mutton chops, and then at the end he goes with that. So
well, no, Rhoades orders his own, and Connery says, "I'll have the same." That was a big. And again, this is another great writing thing, guys, where instead of saying, you know, okay, I'm going to stick with you, I'm going to be loyal to you, he says, I'll have the same. And that's just, that is everything in one statement that is totally unrelated. That is a sign of a great writing piece, when you can get across the full meaning, when the words that are said have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Yep.
So really like that scene tonight. And I loved how honest it was. I mean, Brian's just throwing it out there like, look, you were involved after you recused yourself, and you stole your wife, the notes from your wife's computer.
Yes.
And he finally let all that go.
Because nobody's going to say that to Chuck except Wendy. Who else is going to stand up to him? And Brian is literally like, I have nothing to lose. You don't like me? You're not going to make me head of creme or whatever? Like, no. So I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
No, that's right. That's right. It was just you smirked afterward.
Because they kept saying it, head of it, and I'm like, all right.
Well, it turns out no one's getting that seat.
Yeah.
That is just going to be vacant until who knows when. I thought Lonnie was going to get it, and I thought the restaurant scene was going to. I thought the restaurant scene was going to go poorly. Just when Kate and Lonnie were having lunch, and Lonnie says, "No, they're going to a steakhouse together."
Right.
You know, that's normally where, and Chuck said it, he would offer the promotion.
Exactly. And by no means is Billions becoming predictable, but I am able to start seeing their formula. And that's what I meant before about even with the Wendy thing, the Wendy scene. And I'm happy about that because it's not as confusing then. You know, you have a heads up. I don't know if it's just because now the characters are so well developed and we're so into who they are as the audience and watching, but I love that because agreed, I knew that when they said he took him to Keen's, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that he's getting the position because that's too obvious and that's not their style.
Now, you are from the East Coast.
Yes, I am.
Have you ever been to Keen's before? No. Have you heard of it before tonight?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
No.
Apparently a huge steakhouse in the New York area. And they have all, there's been a lot of meat imagery in this season. Last episode with Bobby and Wags having a meeting in a meat freezer. Or no, an ager. They're aging meat in there, and so you can walk around and pick Wagyu or all these high-end meats. And tonight there was meat, and you can argue Chef Ryan's scene kind of goes with that theme.
I don't know if you're just seeing if I'm paying attention or not, but that was really funny. I'm looking up Keen's Steakhouse because I meant to do that.
Yeah. So
4.5 stars.
Obviously, and I'm sure
$3
pretty prices.
Actually, $3. That's not that bad.
3 out of 4, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But usually something like that's like 4 stars.
That's going to Mastro's.
I mean, 4. Right.
Okay,
Wow.
So before we get into our second to last topic,
That was so funny.
Thank you. I'm glad you paid attention.
It was.
I want to, again, thank everyone for listening. Please subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube so you're getting our weekly updates.
For shizzle.
I like now when I wake up in the morning on Mondays, there's a notification on my iPhone from the podcast app that says Billions Season 2 Episode 7 After Show is now ready for download.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
so
wow.
neat. So if you're subscribed on there, you might not have push notifications enabled for that.
I've none of the notifications on. I can't stand it.
Yeah, so it's nice to have that pop up on your Monday morning. And if you're driving into work and listening to us there, I'd love to hear where listeners are hearing our show. So if you could reach out to me and Andy on Twitter and use that hashtag ABTVBillions, let us know where you're listening from. It's always cool to learn that. So
Absolutely.
Finally tonight, I wanted to talk about my last topic, which would be the Axe capital fallout from losing the Sandicott Casino. Axe has to do a lot of maneuvering here. The choice is between losing $500 million on bad bonds that can't be repaid, or to enforce those bonds and actually make $100 million. And what it comes down to is Lara ultimately saying, hey, it's always been us versus them. Always. And I know we've talked about this already, but it seems like this is going to be something that is going to hurt Bobby's reputation even further. After the 9/11 stuff, now you're going to have the Sandicat issue, which is going to play out over the last 5 episodes of the season. What do you think's coming for this? Did you have a reaction to this story? Did you think they played it a little bit too long, or did it make sense?
Funny you should ask that, because it was a thought that he just kept going round and round.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had his entire brood there.
Yeah.
And had. You made a comment on the food. Did you see that gorgeous layout
Amazing
that nobody
spread.
touched?
Oh yeah, I saw the shrimp sitting there, and I just got really hungry.
I thought that was a great scene, and I appreciated it. It just felt like like a dead end.
Yeah.
Like nobody had a suggestion. They were kind of throwing it out, but there was a lot of back and forth, and it was a huge moral issue. So, Captain Osage says, Canada. They saying you wanted to know where everyone's listening from. So
Oh, listening from Canada. Amazing.
Yeah, just a side note, because I
That's
had
great.
asked, what are you talking about? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to go. I'm from Michigan, so I used to go skiing in Canada all
There
the
you
time.
go.
So thank you
Neighbors.
for listening. Yeah, we're buddies.
So I did. But you know what? He checked in, and he went kind of down the line. Wendy wouldn't give him the time of day, and good for her for holding her ground and doing that.
Yeah.
And it ended with Lara, and I just I do think it went well that way. But even with Hall trying to find out where it all went wrong with that Jack Foley.
Yeah, Black Jack Foley.
That took a long time too, and I usually feel like they get the answers like this. So, but he even visited Boyd, and it's like, okay, but I get it. Obviously, this one is hard to touch, like it's hard to get a rope on. It is a tough place to be in, because these are people's lives he's directly affecting, but it does make sense with the route that he just chose at the end of the episode. That's Axe. That's Axe Capital. That's the way they are. They're bulldozers.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna do it.
See,
So
I see two sides to this issue. Number one, I look at it as going on for a little bit too long, because we know what the answer is. Rhoades Sr. called in the favor to get Blackjack Foley to move the location of the casino away from Sandicat to really screw Axe. So we all as an audience know
this.
that that's what the
that's
answer
why
is.
it took too long for us.
That's why it is still
Yeah.
taking too
Yeah.
long. They still don't know what the answer is. So, we're going into the next episode where that's going to get figured out. But on the other hand, I really liked seeing Hall's methods tonight. I mean, he throws a black suitcase on a desk and whispers something into I think it was Marco's ear, and that was freaky, because we don't hear anything. We don't hear what was said,
Right.
which is an ode to the Hall character working in the shadows, and you really don't want to know everything that he's doing. So I enjoyed seeing that process.
I did too.
Bobby's meeting with Senator Scolari, and trying to maneuver himself. But you're right; these are not normal actions that a Axe Capital bulldozer would take. But there's so much on the line here. I mean, there's $500 million of loss. But I did think it asked some interesting questions. At the staff meeting, there was, the suggestion of, so what? We lose $500 million. We can go make that back next quarter
Right.
without ruining everybody's lives. So while you and I certainly take a certain side with this issue, I thought that the arguments made led to an interesting sort of debate about it. And I thought, both sides had a good argument to make.
Absolutely, and it let us see a little bit more into certain characters, like Taylor, like Wendy, like Dan. I never get his name right. Danzig.
Yeah,
I
that's
know. I
it.
just never say it right. Danzig,
Yeah.
who quits
Yeah.
over it, and Axe thinks it's Wendy's fault, but it's not. It's because he had a problem with it the entire time.
Right.
So that is super interesting, and that was actually surprising to me. But Yeah, I get him confused with Mafi. That's
Mafi,
why.
they look kind of similar.
Yeah, they do. They look very similar. So I was like, wait, but he's sitting in the chair. And then
Right.
because I was noting, and then I had to look up and be like, right. No.
I thought the same thing that
Yeah.
you did, like when he's like Mafi out. I was
Right.
Like,
I'm like,
what?
I thought that was dancing.
Especially because the way that the previous scene was shot, and we're talking about a character,
Mm-hmm.
as an audience, you naturally shift to think, and this is a product of directing. They're moving you to the next point in that
Right.
plot line, so it's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought that was good. It brought out all of those. I think once he finds out, I mean, he's gonna go after the dad so badly.
Oh, yeah.
In some way, I can't wait to see how. But yeah, I still wonder how this is going to play out.
Yeah, well, Rhoades Sr. is going to have a much bigger role in the rest of the season here.
Mm-hmm.
He's so conniving and living through his son vicariously,
Absolutely.
pushing him to do things.
Manipulative.
Yeah, it just makes you
I
hate
quit
him.
my favorite, country club in Garden City, which is on Long Island, by the way.
Okay.
And so funny that he said that, and he's like, yes, and it's because they don't allow women. Like Chuck Sr. on any day would care. He's probably a proponent of that, like happy, except he's making it up to make, down the line, Chuck Jr.'s, win easier and kind of give him a platform.
Yeah.
It's interesting, so.
Yeah, he Chuck Sr. is the big annoying nemesis of Axe.
Yeah.
He's out there and he won't let the Axe feud go. Even though it seems Chuck in a way has sort of moved that aside. They had Bobby and Chuck had a big confrontation scene at the end of last season, and since then, with these legal issues that Chuck has had to go through in saving his job, Axe has been pushed to the back burner. Well, not for Rhoades Sr. Rhoades Sr. still has this rivalry with Axelrod that is, we've never really seen those two go at it at each other, but that's the real
Personally,
fight.
Absolutely.
Even though, because this Wendy stuff, with Wendy sort of taking a step away from Chuck has less to be upset about with Wendy being back at Axe. Not only because she got all those small, civil suit cases dropped, but because Chuck's losing Wendy too, and she's not really his anymore.
Did you buy that side note at the end? Or was it all about the running for office? Chuck saying, it's not such a big deal that you went back. If I want you to be happy.
I want you to be. No, I do think that was honest.
I don't.
You don't.
I think 100% he put on the waterworks. I think there's something inside him that wants her to be happy, but he does not want her at Axe Capital, and he was just doing what Daddy says.
Well, I was frustrated as a fan of Wendy and Chuck as a happy couple, powerful and together, because last week was a real opportunity for them to do that. They have a moment where they nearly kiss, and then Wendy goes out and takes actions clearly motivated by love for Chuck, and then Chuck says it's a deal breaker and slams the door in her face. I think that may have been the end for them. And we saw it this week. She goes out, hits it with Jimmy, and then, we're sort of left in a vacant, emotionless place with where Chuck and Wendy are now. So feeling a little bit shaky about my prediction from last week about the final frame of this season. So,
well, before we get into that, we have some people, because I feel like we're leading into then predictions.
Sure, we're getting close.
We do have some action in the chat room.
Okay.
We have Captain Osage who just said, I don't think Wendy bought Chuck's speech just based on her answer, which I agree, because she was just like, that was really sweet.
Wait, no, I think that she did buy it, but it didn't have the emotional effect on her
that it usually
that
does.
he would have intended or wanted it to.
Not like what she said, what happened last time when he said something that was very authentic, and to Kevin when he was speaking to his son, and obviously he knows how to use his son, and we saw that in this episode.
Ooh, good point.
See?
Good point. Do you think that, okay, so now you're calling into question.
I just threw that
You're
up.
connecting the
because
pattern there.
I did.
Interesting. Oh.
Because she called him out for it. But
Yeah.
I don't even think she was referring to that, obviously, when she said that to him about the football. If anyone's not following,
No, I know
obviously
exactly what
said-
you're talking about.
I'm just saying.
You're
anybody
saying
else.
that, last week we had a moment where Chuck admitted to his son that he was at fault and it wasn't Wendy's fault. And then, Chuck and Wendy's son went and told Wendy that, and Wendy really appreciated that.
Very big emotional
This
response.
and then this week we see Chuck out with his son playing football catch and sets up to have a reporter come take pictures of them. And so now what it looks like is
For
Chuck-
his victory lap.
right, for his victory lap. So now what it looks like is Chuck's using his son not only for his political ambitions but to try and win his wife back as well. That's what Andy is suggesting
Yes.
here tonight.
So, 2 cents. Anywho,
Do we have any other comments in the chat that you want to talk about?
following up, they say she just seems like she was congratulating a speechwriter, which is really funny. And also asked, what do we think of Wendy going into Axe's office?
Axe's office when?
When she commented on what he should do with Sandikat.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
We're going back a little bit.
yeah, no, it's true. If she is, but she made the deal, right? You don't cross the boundary. I'm not coming to you, or you can't come to me. Well, the reverse should be true as well. Like, Wendy, okay, so you're going to go stick your nose in Bobby's business, but you don't want any of his business on your plate?
I kind of agree with you, but isn't that her business? Like she said, isn't she there hired to do that or no?
Yeah, but at what point do you separate a conversation like that from a conversation that Bobby wants to have regarding his feelings on the subject?
But that's personal. Because like she said, which again, amazing because she called him out. There's a lot of like honesty here in this episode where she was like, you're just using me to hash out your thoughts. You're not listening to me. You're not using me for advice and the help I'm here to give you. You're just using me as a soundboard, which he does for everybody.
That's
and she
true.
obviously has, a higher level of thinking on his level that she can kind of hang maybe a little deeper into the conversation than other normal people, but he knows what he wants to do. He just needs to be nudged.
Interesting. I love that perspective.
Thank you.
That's really good
Very
thought.
supportive today.
I know. I'll drop it next
You're
week.
feeling good.
I'll get back to being antagonistic towards you next week.
Great, can't wait.
With that said, let's move into our final prediction segment.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So I'm just gonna make an easy one. I think
ahead.
next week, Rhoades Sr. will be found out that he orchestrated the casino move away from Sandikat and really screwed Axelrod. And I think we will have this war reignited between, the Capulets and the Montagues. We've got
Nice.
right. We've got them both coming back at each other again because Rhoades Sr. interfered unnecessarily. It's just based out of jealousy and old anger and old grudges that Rhoades Sr. can't let go of. I mean, honestly, if he didn't make that call, we don't have this scene, we don't have this problem, we don't have the show, an interesting plot line, so of course it all works out. But yeah, I think Rhoades Sr. is going to get found out next week. Hall got through a lot of information in this hour episode that we saw tonight. So he gets all the way to Blackjack Foley, and now we're going to find out Blackjack Foley is friends with Rhoades Sr. So I think next week will be the beginning of that. Next week is episode 8. There's 12 episodes this season, so it's the final third. It's going to be the final act of this season, and I think that will be the launching point into the action for the last third of this season.
Wow, that's crazy. So I'll start with the chat room right here. We
Oh.
have a prediction. Wendy and Chuck will stay apart. Bobby and Lara will enter Splitsville.
No. I veto that. I'll just disagree.
I will say that I think that Rhoades Sr. obviously gets discovered. I think Bobby will take it to Jack and try to give him what they were saying that he loves. He likes being that silent kind of king. And I mean, that's a weak prediction. I'm even going to say it myself. I know. I had a lot more. I'm on the Brian bandwagon that I think he's going to. I know he got mad at Orenbach this episode.
Yeah.
And he's kind of being tired of being played around.
Yeah.
He's not going to give in easy. I do think he will eventually maybe go. But you know what? I said that last time, and Brian does have such loyalty that I don't know. It might take a really big push.
Yeah, I mean, he's been loyal through all of this, through Chuck acting inappropriately. But, you know, Connery did call for the investigation into his own boss and revealed himself to be the mole.
Yeah.
So how much loyalty does he really have?
I don't know. And it's funny. I feel like we're kind of missing out on Kate, and Lonnie is like ancillary, but like, where's she been? Like, I want her to have some big move.
Her scenes this season have been rather, I'm looking for the right word here, but rather combative and
Instigative.
And yeah, it's not. I felt like last season she was vulnerable and like open, and this season the character's very closed off.
Very. But almost like she's plotting something on her own.
Okay.
Do you feel like that? I feel like she has something on it. She's always complimenting Lonnie. So I don't know what's gonna happen there. But like, I feel like there's tension there. And maybe not so much on his side, but on her side. And I don't know, maybe. I feel like we're gonna get something big from her in the next few episodes.
Okay.
Wendy, you know, I don't know what her deal is with the new guy, if that's going to keep going, but I do think that Rhoades is going to find out about it, and he's going to make moves all around.
Okay, I'm gonna make another easy prediction. I might have inside information, but I don't think we're gonna see Heidecker again this season.
She's moved on already.
She's moving on. I think.
I do think that he's going to. Well, we loved you while you were here.
Yeah, Jimmy. Love you, boy.
I think that Rhoades is gonna find out about it and just erupt, like go on to another level.
He's gonna find out about the Bangarang and Bangarang Rufio.
Oh my God.
Anyway, hit us up with your predictions. Please feel free to do that in our live chat or on the YouTube page directly. That's it. Anything else you wanted to cover before we finish out, Andrea?
No, I think we're good. I'm really already looking forward to next week.
It's going to be a great episode. We air every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Pacific. We'll be back next week to cover episode 8. Until then, we have been Andrea Fasano.
And I lied. I think Rhoades is going to start running for something. He's going to start the campaigning.
Okay.
So, I am Andrea Fasano, and you guys can follow me on all social media, mainly Instagram, at Andy with an I, Fasano. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you keep commenting.
And I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go FrankCam. Thanks so much for listening this week. If you see us out in the real world, be sure to say hi. We appreciate it. Go out, be blessed. We'll see you back soon.
Have a good week, everyone.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.